Hello everybody, Crescendo here, the O guy. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Mono album, Nowhere, Now, Here. Mono is an instrumental rock / post-rock band from Japan. The group have cited a variety of experimental and classical music artists as inspirations, but stated that their aim is to transcend genre, and in general don't like the tag post-rock. Apologies to the band, but that's exactly what this record is. It's a post-rock album with some slight post-metal influence throughout, but that's not an insult. This is one of my most favorite genres, and the term itself doesn't really describe much of what the music has to offer in the first place. All it means that the band tries to play non-typical rock music with rock instrumentation similar to progressive rock. The way the band incorporates their post-rock influences are somewhat unique on this release right over here. The usual suspects of post-rock are here, such as crescendos, strings, dark ambience, etc. But the difference with this record is that it brings more of an interesting heaviness to the equation, plus a bonus of atmosphere brought out by repetition rather than drones. You might be saying, "Oh guy, you fucking idiot." That's also a post-rock staple. And while that's true, I think Mono on this release try and blend the two well-known styles of post-rock together, and honestly, that idea, as an experience, is pretty interesting to say the least. You have some drony and atmospheric type post-rock songs, like on the opening tracks God Bless and After You Comes the Flood. God Bless is a great introduction and really sets the mood for the sounds to come. You get a beautiful yet predictable string chord change with some horns softly blowing away. The song is very short-lived, and soon it transitions quite smoothly into the next tune, After You Comes the Flood. The song continues the pattern but soon brings in some nice, clean, and reverb-drenched electric guitars. A nice legato lick that moves up and comes back down and has a very nice variation to it. Soon this distortion horn-like noise starts slowly taking over the piece, and soon the situation just cuts out. Quickly the whole band comes in. The drums march on like their lives depend on it. The noise gets louder and louder while the guitars become more distorted. Then the whole thing drops into a great post-metal-like head-bangable experience. This is one of the highlights on the record and is a great way to throw you headfirst into the album. The song Meet Us Where the Night Ends is a similar track in the way that it slowly leads you in with these clean lines and atmospheric pad synths. But this song feels much more like an evolved version of After You Come the Flood. The lead vocals kind of pop in and out and around each channel while this U2 type of guitar moves you along through the intro. There are some nice and warm hybrid picked guitar chords that call and respond to the leads in the other ear. Soon the drums start to kick in with some 16-note ride taps and soon a fabulous beat. It really is a beautiful moment on this record. It starts to chug along eighth notes on the guitars and bass, and soon a powerful lead line starts rattling through the right channel. This builds and builds and builds, and soon some very inspiring sounding toms come into play. It's almost like an adventure through some kind of jungle that was burned down long ago. It's got that kind of feel to it. It's not quite apocalyptic, but it sure has an element of dread to it. This thing builds and builds and builds and builds, and even further, and soon the drummer just goes fucking apeshit. Climax on this song is one of the most powerful and almost brutal on the record. The loud and impactful instrumental kind of fades out, and what's left at the end is the same eerie sounding vocal popping in and out of existence. Truly one of the best tracks here, but at the same time I feel like this track could have been longer. I feel with how great of a groove they had on this thing, it could have been a little more thought out and drawn out, and it could have made for a little bit more, if not a lot more, of an emotional moment. But that's just a detail. The song in itself is great, and even though it follows some of the post-rock cliches, it's still an original piece in its own right. This record isn't without more calm moments, like on the tune Breathe. We actually get some singing and lead vocals. It's not the most groundbreaking or interesting song on the record, but the vocals are pretty nice. I'd talk more about the lyrics, but it's hard to make out what she's saying with her accent and how stretched out the lines are. This is a decent cut off the album. The synth work is great, the guitars are pretty, but compositionally it's a bit predictable. Right after that song, we get the title track, and this is where some of my problems with this record start to appear. It's the longest song on the record, and that's actually a bonus for it. It has time to evolve. It begins with some guitar arpeggios, the bass and the lead guitar joined in the right channel, and the drums kicking with a straightforward beat. Strings start to smoothly make their way in, and so on and so forth. Seemingly out of nowhere, the whole track explodes into a gothic and dark atmospheric heaviness. Soon it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it moves into a faster paced section with the drums. These are all interesting aspects of the song, and as an experience, the song is actually really great. But the more I hear it, the more it comes clear that these songs borrow very heavily off of early Godspeed You Black Emperor. Godspeed is, in my opinion, one of the most important figures inside their genre and one of my most favorite bands of all time. I mean, the one I have right over here is a contender for best album ever made, if you ask me. But that's besides the point. The point is that songs like the title track or Sorrow, they borrow pretty damn heavily from early Godspeed albums. like F Sharp, A Sharp Infinity, and their EP Slow Riot for New Zero Canada. Now, when inspiration isn't anything wrong, of course I'm okay with inspirations. I mean, that's how we even get new music in the first place. My issue with these songs is that they seem to derive directly from songs like East Hastings and Moya. The difference being that they don't take their influence and transcend them into originality, they just kind of dampen the emotions I would get from those types of songs in the first place. When this band goes for the same kind of crescendos that Godspeed goes for, they don't really go anywhere, and just kind of stick around until they just fade into the next song or just stop completely. And when they don't crescendo into something, just go for the repetition route, they don't do it as well as, say, something like newer Swans would. Yes, these are all very easy comparisons to make since Swans and Godspeed are some of the most acclaimed and well-known post-rock bands, but I do believe that the influence is here to a nearly copycat level. Only on a few of the new songs, however. There are a lot of interesting and new ideas that I haven't heard before inside post-rock, specifically the attempt of bringing these two extremes of genre together into an interesting compromise that turns out to actually be a pretty enjoyable album experience. However, I really do feel like on some of the songs the influence mix doesn't really end up doing the album justice. Like I said, leading to crescendos that don't go anywhere and then repetitive atmospheres that don't stay around long enough to be effective. Overall, I did actually really enjoy this record. I love the atmospheric and chilling instrumentation, the post-metal undertones of some of the more heavy-sounding songs, and even though I listed as a complaint, the mix of the two sides of post-rock do actually work on some cases, such as the opening two tracks. This album is an hour long, worth your time. It's ambitious, melancholic, yet passionate, and although I do find some of its moments to be quite derivative, it doesn't take away from the experience a whole lot, but it does dampen the replay value this record could have had. I'm feeling a 7.8 on this new record. Please tell me what you think about it inside the comments, if you have any thoughts about it. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.